Jihun. Abigail called, trying to resist, but he closed the distance between them, his hands finding her hips, backing her against the counter. The marble was cold through her thin sleep shirt. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her ear. Instead, she pulled him closer, her fingers threading through his hair as their mouths met. Hungry, urgent, tasting of wine and want. His hands slid beneath her shirt, tracing the curve of her spine while she tugged at his waistband. They moved together with mounting urgency, her back arching as he lifted her onto the counter, scattering the table. This happened weeks later after Abigail had realized that she made a mistake. But now, she is with Tamin and he wouldn't let her breathe at night, but he also wanted someone else. When Abigail finally agrees to let him touch her, his body lingers for someone else. But it was unclear. She had no idea what was happening. After she succeeded with the man she had ever dreamt of. 2 days later, Abigail hears them before she sees them. The person who had been in charge of what she begged for, and she could hear the rhythmic slam of bodies against wood, her best friend Era's breathy moans echoing off stone walls. Her brother Alexei's grip on her wrist is urgent as he drags her down the stairs, his face carved from fury. "You need to see this," he hisses. She does. God help her, she does. Dr. Choi Tae-min, her fiancé, Seoul's golden boy surgeon, the man she's supposed to marry in 3 weeks, had Era pressed against the wine rack. Her scarlet dress is bunched around her waist, his tailored pants pulled at his ankles. They're smashing with the desperate urgency of people who've done this 100 times before. 2 years. Alexei's voice cuts through her shock. They've been at it for 2 years. Era sees Abigail first. Their eyes meet, former best friends connected by betrayal instead of love, and Era doesn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She was just irritated at the interruption. Tamin turns, and his expression cycles through surprise to annoyance to cold calculation in 3 heartbeats. He still didn't pull out. He didn't reach for his clothes. He just studies her with clinical assessment, measuring her capacity for compliance like she's a difficult patient requiring sedation. Abigail. He called her name like a diagnosis. This isn't what it looks like. Before we continue, welcome to Afro Korean Studios Besties. If this is your first time visiting my channel, please do well to like and subscribe so you can get notified each time I drop an episode of these beautiful stories. I am sure you don't want to miss out. The sheer audacity makes her laugh, a sharp, brittle sound that could cut glass. You're literally inside her. It's complicated. Tamin finally withdraws, adjusting himself with casual efficiency. We should discuss this privately, rationally. Before she could form words through the rage crystallizing in her throat, he had crossed the distance between them. His hand closes around her wrist like a physician's grip, knowing exactly which pressure points cause maximum pain without leaving obvious marks. "You'll keep quiet," he says, voice dropping to that soft register that makes everyone nervous. "My father's surgery is in 3 days. You cancel this engagement now, and I'll destroy everything you've built." Her wrist throbs where his fingers dig in. "You're threatening me? I'm protecting us both." His thumb presses harder, surgical precision applied to cruelty. "Every innovation you've developed, every surgical technique you've pioneered, they're documented under shared research agreements. You signed them, remember? Trusted me with joint credit because we were partners." The truth hits like a scalpel between ribs. Those contracts she signed without reading carefully, believing in their partnership, their future together. They were infrastructure for her own destruction. "Cancel this wedding." Tamin continues, his voice terrifyingly calm. "And I'll prove you stole everything from me. Your career will be ash before sunrise. No hospital will touch you. No journal will publish you. You'll be finished in this city, in this country. I own your career, Abigail. I've owned it for 2 years. Let her go." The voice comes from the doorway, dark honey over gravel, familiar in a way that makes every nerve shake. Dr. Kang Ji-hun materializes from the shadows like something summoned, and suddenly the stone cellar feels smaller, more dangerous. The camera in his hand captures everything that was happening. Tamin's bruising grip, Era's smeared lipstick, the damning intimacy of interrupted infidelity. "Now," Jihun adds, and something in that single word, some frequency below human hearing, makes Tamin's fingers spring open immediately. Abigail stumbles back, cradling her wrist. The bruises are already forming, 5 perfect finger marks that will bloom purple by morning. This is a private matter, Tamin says, but his earlier confidence has evaporated. Jihun has always made him panic, the way apex predators recognize territorial threats. Nothing is private anymore. Jihun's smile is all edges as he pockets his phone. I have video, photographs, timestamps. 2 years of documentation if the investigator's timeline is accurate. He looks at Alexei, who nods grimly. How's that for rational discussion? Abigail and Jihun trained together 5 years ago, 2 surgical prodigies competing for the same fellowship. Abigail won. Jihun disappeared into experimental research, and the research followed ethical violations, unauthorized procedures. Brilliance corroded into something that makes medical boards file complaints and colleagues avoid eye contact. You deserve better than this mediocrity, Jihun says, stepping closer to Abigail. His presence is overwhelming. Expensive cologne and surgical antiseptic, familiar and dangerous. You always have. The words are honey-coated arsenic. Abigail should feel grateful for his intervention. Instead, she feels like prey that's simply changed predators. Era flees first, heels clicking frantically on stone. Tamin holds his ground 3 seconds longer, then retreats with as much dignity as a man can muster with his infidelity literally photographed. Jihun remains, studying Abigail with unsettling intensity. I'll walk you upstairs. Unless you'd prefer to stay down here with the wine and wreckage. Why are you here? The question emerges raw. I was invited. And I was curious to see if you'd actually marry that parasite. His smile sharpens. I'm pleased you won't. Taking his offered hand feels like making a deal with a devil wearing human skin. Not taking it means facing 200 guests alone. Abigail takes his hand. The ballroom glitters above, crystal and champagne and Seoul's elite performing privilege. Conversations fade as Abigail walks to the center. Jihun releases her but stays close. A dark shadow promising protection or danger, even both. Thank you all for coming, she says, her voice calm, despite everything. I'm calling off the engagement. Dr. Choi and I won't be marrying. The gasps are a wave breaking against polished marble. Taemin's father, Choi Sung-jae, silver-haired patriarch of Seoul's most powerful medical dynasty, rises with murder in his eyes. You'll regret this, Dr. Abigail. My family doesn't tolerate public humiliation. Your career in this city ends tonight. Your career ends now. Federal prosecutors pour through the entrance with military precision. At their head is prosecutor Kim Ha-yoon, a fierce and beautiful young lady, her expression carved from righteous fury. Choi Sung-jae, Choi Tae-min, you're under arrest for illegal organ trafficking, medical fraud, and conspiracy. Ha-yoon's voice rings with satisfaction. We've been building this case for 18 months. Tonight seemed appropriate for closure. Chaos erupts. Guests scramble for exits. Tamin appears from the cellar, still disheveled, face going white as prosecutors approach with handcuffs. You have no evidence. We have mountains of evidence. Ha-yoon steps forward, something personal in her fury, including testimony proving systematic trafficking disguised as prestige medicine. You've been running an organ black market for 5 years. She turns to Abigail, expression softening slightly. Dr. Kovac, you're a witness, not a suspect. Tamin has been stealing credit for your innovations, planning to divorce you post-marriage and claim all shared intellectual property. We have documentation of his plans to leave you professionally ruined and legally trapped. Another man emerges with sharp features, an expensive suit, and predatory confidence. Yoon Min-suk cuts through chaos like a shark through blood, file folder in hand. Prosecutor Kim. Additional evidence regarding the Choi trafficking network. My biotech company supplied their equipment. I've been gathering intelligence for months. Ha-yoon's face goes absolutely still. Min-suk, what are you doing here? Helping. Like I always tried to. His gaze is steady, unrepentant. You just never wanted to accept it. The history between them crackles like electricity. Ex-lovers, unfinished business, connection that either heals or destroys. Min-suk turns to Abigail. You'll get credit for your innovations back. The evidence proves Tae-min systematically stole your work. You're the brilliant one. He was just the parasite. Jihun's hand settles on Abigail's shoulder, possessive and steadying. Come, I'm taking you home. Ha-yoon looks like she wants to protest, but her phone is ringing with arrest updates. The scene is too complicated, too charged. Abigail lets Jihun guide her toward the exit. His car is waiting, sleek black luxury matching his aesthetic perfectly. Seoul's streets blur past as he drives. Where are we going? She asks. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere safe. His smile is predatory. Your apartment is probably surrounded by reporters. The scandal will be front-page news by morning. Why are you helping me? Jihun's hands tighten on the steering wheel. Because I've been watching you waste yourself on mediocrity for 2 years. Because you deserve better. Because I've wanted you since we trained together, and I'm done pretending otherwise. The confession should terrify her. Instead, she feels strange heat unfurl, dark, wrong, intoxicating. I don't need saving. I know. His smile sharpens. That's what makes you worth pursuing. You're not a damsel, Abigail. You're a dragon that Tamin tried to cage. I'm offering you a chance to burn everything down. After some minutes of driving, they arrived at Jihun's penthouse, and it overlooks Seoul's skyline, glass and steel and obscene wealth. He pours whiskey without asking, hands her the glass with fingers that brush hers deliberately. What happens now? She asks. Now you testify. Reclaim your innovations. Rebuild on your own terms. He moves closer, crowding her deliberately. And you let me help you. Work for me. My private research facility needs a surgeon of your caliber. Experimental cardiac procedures, cutting-edge work that matters. That's illegal. So is everything the Choi family did. The difference is my work actually helps people. His hand touches her face with false gentleness. I've been watching you for years, Abigail. Waiting for the perfect moment. You're brilliant, and now you're desperate. Perfect combination. His dark eyes promise protection or possession. Probably both. Think about it, Jihun says, stepping back with calculated grace. But think quickly. Tamin's threats weren't empty. The Choi family will use every connection to destroy you unless you have protection. I'm offering that protection, but it comes with expectations. Seoul glitters beyond the windows, millions of lights, millions of people performing their assigned roles. Abigail was supposed to marry into power, merge dynasties, build prestige on negotiated foundations. Instead, she's standing in a predator's penthouse, considering deals that blur every ethical line. And the most terrifying part? She's already decided to accept. 1 week later, the termination email arrives at 6 a.m. Due to circumstances affecting institutional integrity, your employment is terminated effective immediately. Abigail stares at her laptop screen, coffee growing cold in her hand. 5 days since the scandal, and she's already untouchable. The Choi family works fast, whisper campaigns about her judgment, her stability, her role in the engagement party disaster. Hospital administrators don't ask questions when powerful families apply pressure. By noon, 3 other hospitals had rescinded interview offers. By evening, her professional network has gone silent, messages left on read, calls unreturned. She's toxic, professionally radioactive, and her savings will last maybe 3 months. The knock comes at 8 p.m., confident and inevitable. Jihun stands in her doorway holding wine that probably costs more than her former monthly salary, his predatory smile suggesting he's been waiting for exactly this moment. May I come in? Refusing feels pointless. They both know how this ends. He moves through her apartment like he owns it, uncorking the wine with practiced ease. You've been terminated. I encouraged it, actually. The Choi family needed very little prompting, a few strategic calls about your judgment, your association with scandal. Hospital administrators are remarkably easy to manipulate. The brutal honesty should enrage her. Instead, Abigail feels strange relief. At least Jihun doesn't pretend. Why? She asks. Because you needed to be desperate enough to accept my offer without endless moral deliberation. He pours 2 glasses, hands her one. Work for me. Chief cardiac surgeon at my private facility. Experimental procedures that save lives hospitals won't touch. Unlimited resources, fascinating cases, compensation that makes your former salary look insulting. Illegal procedures. Pioneering procedures, he corrects smoothly. You followed the rules, Abigail. Perfect surgeon, by the book. Where did that get you? Engaged to a parasite who stole your work and destroyed your reputation. He moves closer. I'm offering purpose when everything else has been stripped away. What do you want from me? Your skills. Your discretion. His dark eyes hold hers. And eventually, other services. Nothing you haven't given lesser men. The threat is velvet-wrapped steel. I also know things about the Choi family, evidence that could free you from Tamin's legal threats completely, or bury you deeper. Your choice depends on how cooperative you become. That's blackmail. That's leverage. I invest in valuable assets and protect my investments. His smile sharpens. You're valuable. Let me protect you. Her savings are evaporating. Her reputation is ashes. And Jihun is offering purpose wrapped in expensive wine and honest brutality. 24 hours, he says at the door. After that, I find another surgeon, and you're left with principals and an empty bank account. She accepts the next morning, hating herself for not even lasting 12 hours. Jihun's facility hides behind a cosmetic surgery clinic in Gangnam, 3 floors down, state-of-the-art equipment performing procedures that blur every ethical line. The patients are desperate, wealthy, willing to pay millions for experimental treatments conventional medicine has abandoned. Abigail's first case is a 14-year-old girl with a congenital heart defect, too risky, too experimental for any hospital. She saves the girl's life in 6 hours of surgery that feels like redemption. This is why she became a surgeon. Not prestige or politics, but a beating heart under her hands. The impossible made possible. Jihun watches from the observation gallery, his satisfaction palpable. Afterward, he pours champagne in his office. Brilliant work. The family wired $2 million USD. 20% is yours. For $100,000. One surgery. Her hospital salary was $150 annually. There's a dress in the changing room, Jihun adds casually. Dinner tonight. My house. 8 o'clock. Not a request. The dress is midnight blue silk, designer cut that clings to every curve, display rather than concealment. Abigail stares at herself in the mirror, seeing clearly what Jihun is constructing. A surgeon who belongs to him, who wears what he chooses, who comes when called. She should refuse. Assert boundaries. But Jihun holds leverage now, patient files implicating her in procedures that violate every regulation. One call to prosecutors, and she faces criminal charges. She had no choice but to wear the dress. Finally, she was at Jihun's penthouse. It smelled like garlic and wine. He's cooking something French, moving through his kitchen with surgical precision. He had changed into casual clothes, an expensive sweater, dark jeans, and the domesticity was jarring. You're punctual. I appreciate that. He doesn't look up from his sauté pan. Wine is breathing on the counter. She watches him work, layering flavors with methodical attention. It's intimate, watching him create something meant only for her. Tamin was a mediocrity, Jihun says, plating food with artistic precision. He tried to own you through manipulation and stolen credit. Small-minded control from a small-minded man. He sets her plate down, meeting her eyes. I'm offering partnership. Real partnership, built on mutual benefit and honest transaction. Partnership implies equality. Equality is fiction. His smile is sharp. There's no equality between us. I have resources, connections, and leverage. You have brilliance and desperation. I need your skills. You need my protection. That's not equality. It's symbiosis. And the dress? The private dinners? That's the other services I mentioned. His hand reaches across the table, fingers tracing her wrist where Tamin's bruises have faded. There's power and submission. I have what you need: protection, purpose, pleasure. You give me what I want: your skills, your loyalty, your body when I require it. Honest transaction. His thumb presses her pulse point, feeling it jump. You can refuse. Walk away right now. I'll write you severance for 6 months. But we both know you won't. Because after years of Tamin's performative romance, there's something intoxicating about being seen completely. Your brilliance, your ambition, your capacity for moral compromise. I see all of it, and I want it anyway. Abigail should leave, should run. Instead, she stays, trapped by terrible truth. Jihun does see her, completely, ruthlessly, without illusion. After years of performing perfection, there's perverse relief in being known. What if I say no to this part? She asks. Keep the work, refuse the rest. Then eventually, I find another surgeon, and you lose the only protection keeping the Choi family's lawyers from destroying what remains of your career. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. I'm not patient, Abigail. I've waited 5 years. I won't wait indefinitely. His hand slides up her thigh, possessive and confident. But you won't say no? Because you want this too? The surrender, The relief of having someone else make decisions after years of exhausting perfection. You want to stop performing and just be, even if being means belonging to someone dangerous. He's right. Hating him for it doesn't make it less true. They didn't finish dinner. Jihun pulls her onto his lap, kissing her with methodical intensity, taking rather than asking. His hands know exactly where to touch, surgical precision applied to pleasure. Abigail wanted to resist, but she actually wanted it. She had been starved for too long. He got intimate with her on the dining table, with food growing cold beside them. Abigail comes apart under his hands while despising her own response. It's not gentle. It's possession, Jihun claiming what he's paid for, marking territory with ruthless efficiency. Afterward, he carries her to his bedroom, slower this time, methodical attention to every reaction. He's learning her body like studying a surgical technique, comprehensive, detailed, perfect recall. You're mine now, he says against her throat. Not a question. The sooner you accept that, the easier this becomes. I hope you are enjoying this episode of Afro Korean Stories. Please do well to hit the subscribe button, like and comment. Thank you for helping out. Now, let's continue. Abigail can't answer. Can only lie in his expensive sheets, feeling his weight pinning her down, acknowledging terrible truth. She's traded one cage for another. At least this time, she walked in with her eyes open. The pattern establishes quickly. Surgery during the day, brilliant, cutting-edge work that makes her feel alive. Evenings at Jihun's penthouse when he summons her, dinner, wine, sex that's methodical and consuming. He's never cruel, never violent, but always in control. Always reminding her through touch and command exactly who holds power. Wear your hair down tomorrow, he'll say. I prefer it that way. Cancel your weekend plans. We have a complex case Monday that requires preparation. Come here. Now. Each demand is small. Each acceptance is erosion. Abigail tells herself it's pragmatic, survival through strategic compromise. But late at night, alone in her apartment, she recognizes the truth. She's not surviving. She's disappearing, piece by piece, into Jihun's careful construction of who he wants her to be. And the most terrifying part? Some dark, secret part of her doesn't entirely hate it. After years of maintaining perfect control, there's dangerous relief in surrender. In letting someone else make decisions, bear the weight, provide direction. Jihun sees that part too. Sees it and feeds it deliberately, like a surgeon carefully managing an addiction he's created. You're doing beautifully, he tells her after a particularly complex surgery, his hand possessive on her hip. Exactly as I knew you would. Exactly as I've always known you could. The praise shouldn't matter. It does. 3 weeks in, Abigail catches her reflection in Jihun's bathroom mirror, wearing the lingerie he bought, her hair styled how he prefers, her body marked with bruises from his fingers, and barely recognizes herself. She should be horrified. Instead, she just feels tired, and trapped, and dangerously, inexplicably satisfied. Jihun appears behind her in the mirror, hands settling on her shoulders with proprietary confidence. Beautiful, he murmurs. My angel. Abigail didn't correct him. What would be the point? 6 months later, the Choi family's conviction made headlines for 3 weeks. Fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion, the charges rolled out like a prosecutor's fever dream. Abigail watched from her corner office as the empire collapsed, each news alert a small validation of choices she could never take back. Her corner office. Jihun had arranged that too. You've earned it, he'd said, as if merit alone had promoted her over 3 senior associates. As if everyone didn't know whose attention had elevated her. Her phone buzzed. A calendar reminder. Dinner with Jihun, 8 p.m. Wear the blue dress. Not a request. Never requests anymore. Abigail's fingers hovered over the notification. She could cancel. Could cite case preparation, a deadline, anything. Instead, she opened her closet where the blue dress hung. Already selected. Already inevitable. Miss Torres. Her assistant appeared at the door. Someone's here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's urgent. And Era Choi. The name landed like a stone in still water. Era looked diminished in the reception area, her designer clothes replaced by something cheaper, ill-fitting. But it was her face that shocked Abigail. The hollowness there, the desperate edge that made her beautiful features seem fragile, breakable. Thank you for seeing me. Era's voice cracked on the words. Abigail didn't invite her to sit. You have 5 minutes. I'm pregnant. The words tumbled out. 3 months. Tamin won't return my calls. His family, they've blacklisted me everywhere. No firm will hire me, not even for document review. Abigail, please. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I'm desperate. If you could just speak to someone, put in a word. A word. Abigail tasted the phrase, found it bitter. Like the word you put in with the hiring committee? The one that nearly cost me everything. I was jealous and stupid and you were cruel. The coldness in her own voice surprised Abigail. When had she learned to sound like this? You enjoyed it. The power you had over me. Era's hand moved to her stomach, protective. Please. Not for me, but for your child isn't my responsibility. Each word felt like stepping on something fragile, hearing it crack. She should feel guilty. Should feel something beyond this Arctic satisfaction. You made your choices. Live with them. After Era left, stumbling, crying, Abigail returned to her office and closed the door. She waited for remorse to arrive, for the disgust that should accompany such cruelty. It didn't come. That evening, Jihun's driver collected her at 7:30. The penthouse had become familiar territory. The minimalist elegance, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the careful curation of a man who controlled everything, including which version of himself the world saw. You look tired. Jihun touched her cheek, the gesture almost tender. Almost. The Era situation? Of course he knew. He always knew. She came to my office. Wanted help finding work. And you said, no. His smile held approval, and she hated how that approval warmed something inside her. Good. Mercy to enemies is cruelty to yourself. Though I'm surprised you're still at the firm. The shift in topic felt deliberate. What do you mean? Your trust fund unlocked last month. You have options now. Independence. He poured wine, his movements precise. Unless you prefer the arrangement we have. Abigail accepted the glass, buying time. The trust fund, her grandmother's final gift, held until her 30th birthday. $2 million. Enough to leave, to start fresh. Enough to escape. I haven't thought about it, she lied. Haven't you? Jihun's eyes held something sharp. I pulled your bank records. You've been researching apartments in Boston. Immigration law firms. Very thorough research. The wine glass felt heavy in her hand. You monitor my finances? I monitor my investments. You don't imagine you'd have that office, that salary, that reputation without my intervention? I've spent considerable resources positioning you, Abigail. I protect those investments. I'm not your investment. I'm a person. You're both. He moved closer, his hand finding her throat, not squeezing, just resting there, a reminder. And you're not a prisoner. You can leave anytime. Transfer to Boston, start fresh. Of course, I'd have to protect my interests. Those files we discussed, the ones showing your involvement in the Choi investigation, your access to confidential information, your relationship with me during active proceedings. Prosecutors would find them fascinating. Your choice, always. The walls seemed closer suddenly, the windows no longer showing freedom, but reflecting her own trapped image. That's blackmail. That's reality. His thumb traced her pulse. I don't deal in illusions, Abigail. You knew what this was from the beginning. I never lied about the cost. He was right. He'd never lied. She'd simply hoped the cost would be smaller, that she could pay in installments rather than surrendering everything. I hate you, she whispered. I know. He kissed her forehead, almost gentle. But you need me more than you hate me. That's what makes this work. The worst part was the truth in it. She'd become dependent on his approval, his validation. Every case she won, every professional victory, they all felt hollow without his acknowledgement. He'd rewired something fundamental in her, turned her need for justice into hunger for his regard. That night, he was patient, methodical, his control absolute. And she gave him everything, her body, her surrender, her broken pride, hating herself for how much she craved his approval even in degradation. Afterward, lying in his bed while he slept, Abigail stared at the ceiling and cataloged her losses. Era's desperate face, the woman she'd been before compromise, the belief that there were lines she wouldn't cross. All gone, all traded for survival in a system that rewarded corruption and punished integrity. Her phone glowed on the nightstand, a news alert about the Choi family appeal being denied. Justice, such as it was, built on foundations of manipulation and backdoor dealings, and her own willingness to become something she despised. Jihun stirred beside her, his arm possessive even in sleep. She could leave, take her trust fund, and disappear. Risk prison, risk everything, but reclaim some fragment of herself. Or she could stay, accept this reality, stop fighting the chains she'd helped forge. The choice should have been simple. The trapped woman should choose freedom. But Abigail had learned that freedom was another illusion, that everyone served something, principles or survival, justice or power. And she'd already chosen. Not today, but 6 months ago in that restaurant when she'd first said yes. That particular day, the notification came through official channels. Choi Tae-min, released after 18 months for good behavior. Fraud conviction, minimal sentence, maximum connections. The kind of justice money bought when your family knew which palms to grease. Abigail deleted the email without reading past the subject line. 2 years had taught her that some doors, once closed, should remain sealed. Her phone rang within the hour. "There's a situation at the facility," Jihun's head of security said. "Choi Tae-min is demanding access to your lab. He's threatening legal action if we don't admit him. Call the police. He claims contractual right of access. Something about pre-engagement agreements." The floor tilted slightly. Pre-engagement agreements. Documents she'd signed 3 years ago when the future looked different, when Tamin had insisted on protecting their shared intellectual property before marriage. She'd been too in love to read the fine print carefully. "Don't let him near my work," she said. "I'm coming now." The facility's lobby had transformed into a standoff. Tamin stood flanked by 2 attorneys. His prison pallor faded, but something harder in his face now. The boyish charm had calcified into something more dangerous. "Abigail." He smiled like they were old friends meeting for coffee. "You look well. Success suits you. You need to leave. I need to see what's mine. The patents, the research, all developed during our engagement period, all covered under our agreement." He held up a document thick with legal language. "I own 40% of everything you created during our relationship, including the work you've done here." Her stomach dropped. She'd forgotten those contracts existed, had buried them with every other memory of their relationship. That engagement ended when you couldn't keep your manhood to yourself and decided to hit my roommate. Infidelity doesn't void financial agreements. His lawyer spoke, bored and efficient. The contracts remain binding until formally dissolved or superseded. Ms. Torres has continued developing technology in the quantum encryption field, technology our client has legal stake in. This is extortion. This is contract law. Tamin moved closer, his voice dropping. "But it doesn't have to be adversarial. I still love you, Abigail. I made a mistake, a stupid, meaningless mistake. Marry me now. We'll combine the patents properly, build the empire we always planned. I'll restore your reputation, give you the legitimacy you've been chasing through him." The contempt in that last word was palpable. "I'd rather burn every patent than give you anything. Then I'll take them through court, and you'll have nothing. Your choice, reconciliation or destruction. There's a third option." Jihun's voice cut through the tension like a blade through silk. He emerged from the private elevator, his presence immediately recalibrating the room's power dynamics. Ms. Torres could refuse both alternatives. Taemin's expression curdled. "Kim Ji-hun, I wondered when you'd appear. Enjoying my leftovers. Enjoying watching you negotiate from weakness." Jihun accepted the contract from Taemin's lawyer, scanning it with the focused attention he brought to everything. Poorly written. The intellectual property clauses are ambiguous, the temporal boundaries unclear. "I could challenge this and win, but litigation would be expensive, time-consuming. It would expose certain financial arrangements that neither of you want scrutinized." He wasn't wrong. Court battles meant depositions, discovery. Her relationship with Jihun during the Choi investigation would surface. Questions about timing, access, influence. "So we're at an impasse," Tamin said. "Unless she comes back to me. Or she marries me." Jihun's tone suggested he was discussing quarterly projections. Spousal priority laws void pre-engagement contracts. The moment we're married, your claims dissolve. She'd be legally protected, and you'd lose everything. The proposal landed like a gunshot in the quiet lobby. Abigail stared at him. "You're not serious." "I'm always serious about protecting investments." His eyes held no warmth, no romance. This wasn't a proposal, it was a hostile takeover. Marriage provides legal advantages, tax benefits, intellectual property protection, consolidated assets. It's strategically sound. It's insane. It's effective. He handed the contract back to Tamin's lawyer. You have 24 hours to withdraw your claim. After that, Miss Torres and I will be married, and your contracts will be legally meaningless. Tamin's composure finally cracked. You're bluffing. She'd never marry you. Everyone knows what you are. A predator who collects people like acquisitions. And yet she's been mine for 2 years while you rotted in minimum security. Jihun's smile was surgical. The difference between us, Tamin, is that I don't pretend. I don't promise love and deliver betrayal. I offer exactly what I am: power, protection, and the price that comes with both. Abigail understands that clarity. It's why she chose me over your pathetic return. Abigail. Tamin's voice held desperation now. You can't actually consider this. He doesn't love you. This isn't a marriage, it's ownership. She looked between them. 2 men fighting over her like territory to be claimed. Tamin, who'd loved her carelessly and destroyed her publicly. Jihun, who'd never promised love but had delivered brutal honesty about the transaction they'd entered. The choice should have been simple. Walk away from both, fight the contracts, risk everything for independence. But Abigail had learned that independence was a luxury she'd traded long ago for survival. And between the man who'd broken her heart and the man who'd never pretended to offer one, the calculation was cold arithmetic. I need to see the actual proposal, she said. Jihun produced a folder. He'd anticipated this, of course. Always 3 moves ahead. The prenuptial agreement was comprehensive: separate finances, intellectual property rights retained individually, dissolution terms clearly defined, marriage as legal instrument, stripped of sentiment. This isn't love, she said quietly. No, Jihun agreed. It's something more reliable. Protection, partnership, and the power to destroy anyone who threatens what's yours, including him. She read every clause while Tamin pleaded. His attorneys murmured objections, his desperation growing more visible. The boy she'd loved had disappeared into whatever prison had made him. Only this grasping, bitter man remained. The pen felt heavy in her hand. If I sign this, I want something in addition. Name it. Era Choi. She has a daughter now. Find her stable employment. Anonymous sponsorship. She never knows it came from me. Jihun studied her face. Sentiment. Closure. Acceptable. He gestured to his lawyer. Add the provision. The modifications took 15 minutes. Tamin watched in horror as his leverage evaporated, his future dissolved in legal language and strategic marriage. Abigail signed her name. Once on the prenup, once on the marriage license Jihun had somehow procured in advance. Always prepared. Always certain she'd choose pragmatism over principle. He wasn't wrong. We'll formalize this at the courthouse tomorrow, Jihun said. Witnesses arranged, documentation prepared. Congratulations on your engagement. The words held no joy, no celebration. Just the satisfaction of a transaction completed successfully. Tamin's face had gone pale. You'll regret this. Both of you. This isn't marriage, it's imprisonment. Then I'm already serving time, Abigail said. At least this sentence comes with legal protection. She walked out beside Jihun, his hand possessive on her lower back, her former fiancé's fury echoing behind them. In the car, Jihun poured champagne like they'd closed a business deal. Perhaps they had. Do you feel victorious? He asked. Abigail tasted the champagne. Expensive, flawless, empty. I feel practical. Good. Victory and happiness rarely coincide. But victory and survival do. He touched her ring finger, bare for now. We'll select something appropriate tomorrow. Nothing sentimental, something that broadcasts ownership. She should have been horrified. Should have felt trapped, desperate, afraid. Instead, she felt only the cold clarity of someone who'd stopped fighting inevitability. She'd made her choices years ago. This was simply accepting how far the consequences reached. To bitter victories, she said, raising her glass. Jihun smiled and touched his glass to hers. The only kind worth having. The champagne tasted like ashes and triumph, impossible to separate. I have a plan, but it's in 3 years from now, and I just have to wait. Abigail snapped. What's that? Jihun asked. Abigail replied with a smile and quickly waved him off. She was tired of him and wanted to run away by all means, but who was going to take her out? She didn't have anyone else, and Jihun had documents against her, much more than what Tamin had against her. She had to make a choice. 3 years later, the courthouse ceremony took 11 minutes. No flowers, no music, No pretense of romance. Just Abigail, Tamin, two witnesses, and a judge who processed marriages with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd seen every variation of human desperation. I now pronounce you husband and wife. The words felt like a prison door closing. Afterward, in the parking lot, her brother Alexis gripped her shoulders. Tell me this is temporary insanity. Tell me you're not actually doing this. Community property laws. Abigail kept her voice steady. 2 years of marriage establishes equitable asset division. I regained control of my patents, my work, everything his pre-engagement contracts claimed. Then divorce with my career intact. You're marrying your abuser for legal strategy? I'm marrying my abuser because it's the only path to independence that doesn't involve decades of litigation or professional destruction. She pulled away from his grip. This is strategy, not surrender. They look remarkably similar from here. He wasn't wrong. But Abigail had learned that survival rarely looked heroic. Sometimes it looked like calculated madness, like choosing the devil you knew over the one you didn't. Jihun didn't hunt her. Instead, he had sent a wedding gift. A Ming Dynasty vase worth more than most people's homes, delivered with a card that read simply, * wrong choice. I'll wait, *. She donated it to a museum anonymously. The first month of marriage revealed the price of her strategy. Tamin was possessive in ways that felt like punishment. He demanded her presence at family dinners where his mother's contempt was barely masked. He controlled her schedule, monitoring her appointments, questioning her interactions with colleagues. You're my wife now, he said when she objected. My reputation was destroyed because of you. The least you can do is help rebuild it. Public displays became mandatory, his hand always on her waist at events, forced intimacy that made her skin crawl. He posted photos constantly. My brilliant wife, so blessed, second chances. Each caption is a performance of rehabilitation. In private, he was worse. Sex became another arena for control, for reminding her of the power dynamics. He was never violent enough to leave marks, but the psychological weight was crushing. You were always the talented one, he said once, drunk after a medical conference where her research had been highlighted. Smarter, more innovative. I couldn't stand it. Do you know what it's like, being the mediocre one in the relationship? The confession arrived wrapped in cruelty, but beneath it was something pathetic, a man who destroyed what he loved because he couldn't be its equal. So you sabotaged me. I wanted to be the successful one. His voice cracked. Just once. But you made that impossible. You make everything impossible. Abigail felt nothing but cold calculation. His insecurity was a weakness she could potentially exploit, but sympathy was a luxury she couldn't afford. 6 months in, Prosecutor Hyun cornered her at a legal symposium. Tell me you have an exit plan. Tell me this isn't permanent. 2 years. Then divorce with equitable asset division. Abigail recited it like a mantra. I regain my patents, my intellectual property, everything. It's a sacrifice for eventual freedom. Sacrifice and surrender look awfully similar. Not if I survive. But survival was harder than she'd calculated. Tamin isolated her systematically, questioning her friendships, monitoring her communications, demanding access to her devices for transparency. The control was comprehensive, suffocating. He forbade contact with Jihun entirely, though Jihun's presence lingered like a ghost. Anonymous gifts appeared periodically. Books she'd mentioned wanting, reservations at restaurants she'd loved, reminders that he was watching, waiting for her to admit the mistake. One night, Tamin found a bottle of wine Jihun had sent, vintage Bordeaux, her favorite. He smashed it against the kitchen floor, glass and wine spreading like blood. You think I don't know? You think I'm stupid? His fury was ice cold. You married me to escape him, but you're still his. You'll always be his. I'm no one's. Liar. He grabbed her face, forcing eye contact. You dream about him. You think I don't notice? The way you check your phone, hoping he'll reach out. You chose wrong, and you know it. The accusation stung because it contained truth. She did think about Jihun, not with longing, but with the terrible recognition that his brutal honesty had been preferable to Tamin's performative redemption. At least Jihun had never pretended to be anything but what he was. Year 2 brought its own horrors. Tamin's control intensified as her exit approached. He monitored her finances, tracked her location, demanded passwords to all her accounts. The cage was gold-plated, but still a cage. You're counting days, he said, finding the calendar where she'd marked off months. Planning your escape. But you won't leave. You need me, for legitimacy, for protection, for the career I'm rebuilding for you. Our agreement was 2 years. Agreements change. I've made you successful again. Your patents are valuable because of my connections. You owe me. I owe you nothing. His smile was ugly. Then leave. Walk away and watch everything collapse. I'll make sure every firm knows you're unstable, litigious, impossible to work with. You'll be professionally radioactive. The threat was credible. He had the connections, the platform, the vindictive determination. That night, Abigail called Daniel. I need a lawyer. The best divorce attorney you know. Thank God. I'll send contacts tomorrow. But preparing to leave and actually leaving proved different. Tamin escalated. Accessing her email, confronting colleagues about confidential conversations, making scenes at professional events. His desperation was becoming dangerous. Jihun materialized at her office unannounced, 18 months into her marriage. He looked older, harder. I heard Tamin's making trouble. Do you need intervention? I need you to stay away. You make everything worse. I make things honest. He handed her a folder. His financial records. He's been diverting funds from joint accounts, preparing to leave you bankrupt when you file. I thought you should know. She didn't ask how he'd obtained them. Why help me? Because you chose wrong, but I don't need you destroyed to prove it. Just diminished enough to remember who offered real protection. After he left, she reviewed the documents. Tamin had been stealing systematically, building a hidden nest egg while she counted days to freedom. The betrayal was almost refreshing in its predictability. The divorce filing came at month 23. Tamin's rage was spectacular: public accusations, professional sabotage, threats of litigation. But Jihun's documents provided leverage, and her lawyer was ruthless. You'll regret this, Tamin promised at their final mediation. You'll be nothing without me. I was something before you, and I'll be something after. That's what you never understood. The settlement took 4 months to finalize. She kept her patents, her research, her career. He kept his reputation and remarried within 6 months. Another ambitious doctor, another strategic alliance. 2 months later, the clinic occupied a converted warehouse in the city's poorest neighborhood. Free legal services for those who couldn't afford the system's price of admission. Abigail had traded prestige for purpose, corporate law for community defense. Jihun's facility was raided after her divorce, financial irregularities, witness tampering, everything she'd suspected. He escaped prosecution through expensive lawyers and convenient amnesia from potential witnesses. Professional ruin, but personal freedom. He'd called once from somewhere tropical, his voice carrying ocean sounds. I hear you're saving the world now. How predictably noble. Someone should. You could have had power instead of principles. Still could. I have enough of both. He'd laughed and hung up. She hadn't heard from him since. Tamin remarried, divorced, remarried again. The pattern was predictable: brilliant women who believed his redemption narrative until they learned better. She heard he was cheating on the current wife. Some lessons only repeated, never learned. But Abigail had learned that survival was messy, that escaping systems designed to break you meant accepting imperfect victories. She'd chosen the devil she knew over the one she didn't, paid with years of subjugation, and emerged scarred but standing. Not the story anyone wanted, just the one she'd lived. Some nights, she still dreamed about the woman she might have been, the one who'd never signed those contracts, never compromised, never bent. That woman was probably powerful or destroyed, triumphant or broken. Abigail was neither. She was simply someone who'd survived the devils and was learning, slowly, to live without them. Thank you for watching this episode from Afro Korean Studio. This is the story of Abigail. What are your thoughts on how she navigated her way between the two men? Do you think she could have handled things differently with Tamin? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support the channel.